go.
Welcome to the 188th Wing podcast, where you get your in-depth information about what's happening in your wing. I'm Master Sergeant Chauncey Reed, and today I'm here with our wing commander, Colonel Dillon Patterson, and Airman First Class Carrisa Crawford. We're going to talk about missions, plans, projects, what's going on in your wing. Then we'll get into what FMS means for the 188th. First, let's start with some simple introductions.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'm Dillon Patterson. As he said, I'm the wing commander. For those that I've not had the opportunity to meet with or interact, I've been here about 2 years. Moved out here as the MSG commander a couple years ago, and then in June took command of the wing. And I am absolutely blessed to have the best job in the United States Air Force, being the commander of the 188th Wing. So thanks for having me on today.
Hello, I'm A1C Crawford. I'm a part of our Force Support Squadron. During the week, I serve as a civilian, being the customer support manager in the drill status, force support, customer support NCO.
And you're also not a new mom, but a fairly new mom, right? You got a little guy. What's his name?
Adrian.
And now, see, how old is he?
He's 9 months.
And how big is he?
31 pounds.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So I haven't seen him in a while. Last time I saw him was when we were playing basketball, and it was FSS who defeated Comptroller Flight.
Yes.
And you had him there, and I thought he was like 9 months old back then. He was like 3 months old at the time, right? He was dribbling a basketball. He was actually walking around dribbling a ball.
He's about there now.
Yeah, little power forward in the making right there. Huh? How's he doing?
He's doing great, growing, eating, crawling, thinking he can walk now. But
Yeah.
He's not close, but
He's right at that
thinks
age,
he
huh?
can.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole world opens up. They start getting mobile, and they want to explore, and you don't get to take a nap ever, do you?
Not at all.
Always watching. That's great. That's great.
Well, really looking forward to getting into some of these topics, sir. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so what I want to do is I want to just kind of walk around the wing for a little bit. We have so many airmen in this wing who do an amazing job within their squadron and within their function. And when this wing transitioned away from a flying mission into, really we have 4 or 5 different missions going on right now. And I think there was a loss of some of that connection, because we're no longer all focused on one thing. Now we've got multiple important things going on. So I want to start off with the ops group. I think everybody kind of knows we fly MQ-9s, but if you don't get to go down into the skiff, you may not know what really happens down there, right? And they do some amazing stuff. To start off with, the MQ-9, we fly it from right here in Fort Smith, and it can be anywhere in the world. And what the 184th is doing that's really unique is they're hopping around to different combat theaters, which isn't something that the community has done, over the last 15 years of doing unmanned operations. We've kind of been parked in one space, in a combat zone, and our airmen down there are dynamic. They're moving that airplane in and out of civilian airspace into combat airspace. They're changing airports, and right now they're training up this new capability that they're driving toward, which is called satellite launch and recovery. Ooh. Where we are going to be able to take off and land from right here in Fort Smith. Whereas, previously you had airmen deployed downrange, and they would take off the airplane and they would hand it to us, and we would fly the mission. And at the end of the mission, we would go back to the base, and then we would hand it back to the folks locally at that theater, and they would land the plane. And it tied that airplane to that base for the most part. The new software, new hardware in the airplanes allowing us to take off and land via the satellite, which means pilots and sensor operators right here in the 184th are going to take off, fly it, and effectively they can land anywhere that they want. The technology is going to allow us to grow to that capability. What that really enables is this new crazy thing called agile combat employment. It's a schema maneuver that the Chief of Staff of the Air Force rolled out in front of us for the whole Air Force, not just MQ-9, but it's a space where the Guard is leading the Air Force. So we've started doing training exercises. We've brought a couple of MQ-9s up here in the past, and it's something we're exploring in the future. So as we bring on this ability to take off and land off the satellite, I think you're going to see MQ-9s here on Ebbing, TDY coming up from the other locations, from Fargo and from Texas. Airplanes coming out here where we're taking off from Fargo. Our airmen are flying it out here on our range, doing missions, and they're landing here in Fort Smith. We're gassing it up, launching and doing another mission, and then sending it back to Texas or back to Fargo, wherever it came from. So that's a real capability that our enemies don't want us to have, and airmen in the 184th Attack Squadron and 180th OSS are leading the way in developing that capability. It's something that we're really proud of. And then out at the OG, I don't want to forget our friends out there at Det 1 out at Razorback Range. Sometimes I know I forget about them a lot because they're half an hour down the road on this little postage stamp out there, but they're doing amazing work. They've got a contractor called Raven who flies light aircraft and little fast jets, and we train JTACs. And they're going to be expanding that operation pretty soon to start training some FMS folks.
I heard that something changed with the contract recently.
Yeah, so there was a previous contractor called Blue Air, did great work for us, flying airplanes out there on the range. And that's just part of the contract process, is those contracts are bid for a number of years. And at the end of that contract, it goes out for bid again, and a different company had the opportunity to bid and won that contract. So it wasn't that our friends in Blue Air weren't doing a good job. It's simply the contracting process. So Raven, the new company, got the contract. Another group of fine Americans doing great work out there. So if you're an airplane person and you look on the ramp at airplanes, you'll see some new airplanes out there, including a little trainer jet.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Does that mean that there's new different aircraft?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's always exciting seeing new hardware out there flying around, but it's doing the same mission. So Carrisa, have you ever actually been out to Det 1? Do you even know where it was if I sent you out there?
Never.
Wow.
Know what city. If it's
sounds
close,
like field trip
far.
time.
Yeah,
it does. It seems like I need to get out more.
I think we need to do a spirit mission out there where we get a bunch of folks from main base and we drive out there and toilet paper their facilities. Do you guys still do that? Is that something your generation did? You probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Huh?
No.
Not at all. What did you guys prank people? Like when you were in high school, did you prank your friends or anything?
We did. A lot of people, not myself, but a lot of people used to do the eggs at the house or saran wrap in the cars, stuff like that.
So that's something we could go out to Det 1 and we could saran wrap. They got a bunch of like side by sides and stuff. I don't think we probably should throw eggs. That might get sticky. But
yeah.
Okay.
And they're a little high right now, anyway.
Yeah, they are expensive. Yeah, we got this inflation on us. Yeah, so that's what's kind of going on with the ops group. So if you want to get out to Det 1, make an appointment with David Pope and his team, and I think they'd love to have you out there. So let me move on to the ISR group. Right, that's kind of a mystery, especially when you talk to folks in town, whether it's at church or a soccer game or at a restaurant or something like that. People kind of know about our MQ-9 mission. What they know is our planes went away and we're flying drones, right?
Right.
Big misconception. They almost never have an idea about what goes on with ISR group. And part of me loathes that, right? Because I think, man, we are doing such amazing work down there. But part of me also loves it because that minimizes the security threat, right? And when you're doing a top secret mission, the last thing we want is nosy folks that don't need their nose in our business. So it's like a love-hate thing.
No public affairs.
Yeah, no public affairs. Yeah. So I wish we could, right? I wish we could do a PA day and bring in the local media and turn the classification down and show them what ISR group does. Unfortunately, you just lost like 90% of what they do by turning the classification down. So, it's high tech, it's high classified, and it's high impact on the battle space. So, what are they doing down there big picture? We'll start off with the targeting squadron, right? For folks that don't know what targeting is, I didn't know a whole lot about it most of my career, but they're taking problems that battle space commanders might have, and they're looking at that, and they're turning it into a target that we could action. Maybe we could action it with bombs and missiles. Maybe we can action it with cyber effects. Maybe we can action it with other effects like that. So they have different phases, like intermediate target development and advanced target development. But there's different phases they look at, right? They look at stuff in space. They look at stuff on the ground. And I'm really leery to talk about it because it very quickly gets into who they're working for, what they're doing, and now you breach the classified realm. And I wish we could bring one of these targeting folks in here and just brag about them.
I had the privilege of sitting in on some of the unclassified briefings around what they do, and I would say that it was one of the most impressive Air Force missions that I've ever gotten exposed to. The people over there are fantastic and super smart, and I really found it very interesting what they do.
Yeah, it's fantastic work, right? So moving out of targeting, we go into this enterprise, they call it DGS Arkansas, which is the combined effects of the 123rd, the 188th, and the 288th down there. All together, they comprise DGS Arkansas. And they've got a mixed bag of stuff, right? Kind of the classic work they do that anybody that's touched the MQ-9 business understands. is they do processing, exploitation, and dissemination. They take the video stream off of MQ9s or other RPAs, and that's information, right? It's just raw video. They take that raw video and they analyze it real time, and they turn that information into intelligence, right? They look at it and they can tell in real time to the battle space commander what they're seeing and what it means, and that's what intelligence really is. Like, what does it mean to the commander on the ground that can go do something with that information? And they've been doing that at a world-class level for years and years, but they're evolving and they're becoming very innovative, right? And recently, the Air Force intelligence world has stood up these things called analysis and exploitation teams, AETs. Have you ever heard of an AET on this? You ever heard that acronym thrown around?
I've seen it. Do I know what it means? No.
Yeah, most of us don't, right?
Right.
Because, I mean, I'm going to be very real. Like, our intel folks, really smart, really professional, and really nerdy, right? And they like to throw that around, and they'll talk about AETs. And, man, I was on the base for like a year and a half, and Colonel Martin explained it to me like 3 times. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. So I finally had to go got to go, didn't have to. I had the opportunity to go sit down with some of the teams. And what they're doing, at my very limited understanding at an unclass level, is they're taking problem sets, right? A battle space commander, whether it's in U.S. Southern Command or Central Command or Africa Command or wherever, they have those commanders have problem sets, and that's what they're doing. They're going, hey, we're having a problem with, Chauncey Reed keeps eating all of our Twinkies, and we can't figure out how to stop him from eating Twinkies, right? And then they're going to take that and they're going to analyze, like, how are Twinkies distributed? Where do Twinkies come from in the supply chain? How does Chauncey get a key to the cabinet where all the Twinkies are, whatever it is, right? And that's what AETs are doing. They're looking at specific problems, and they're using all of the sources of intelligence available to them to give those commanders answers to the why and the how is that thing a problem down there, right? And one of the really cool things that they do is it's called publicly available information. And they have some toolkits, and they can get information that's publicly available. Like, we think social media, right? Our enemies and people in the battle space that aren't enemies, they're just out there. They use social media, and our folks can analyze that. Now, again, how they do it and why we rapidly get into stuff we can't talk about at this level, but it's innovative, it's very impactful, and the airmen in the 1/8th ISR group are leading the way on that, to the point where Air Combat Command is looking at starting a schoolhouse, like a formalized training schoolhouse. They know there's a need for it. They don't really have a big training pipeline for it, and they've asked us to look at, could we potentially stand up and create that schoolhouse? And that's innovation right there. That's taking tools available and using them in different ways where you're so good at it that Air Combat Command's coming down to this little bitty base at Ebbing in Arkansas and going, hey, can you guys lead the way and start up a schoolhouse and train other units how to do what it is that you do? And it's incredibly amazing down there. But again, most of us on the base don't get to know about it, right? Because it's not like you guys in the Force Support Squad are just like rapping about AETs all day long, right? I mean, if you are, we have a problem. We have a security problem, which we want to avoid that, right?
Everybody wants to come to the 188th, bring the new schoolhouse along.
Absolutely. And with that comes mission support needs, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we start up things like you build out a schoolhouse, and the FSS is now busy because there's more people coming on base, more people getting ID cards, more people processing orders, right? Which is one thing about this base that's never been right is the support that goes into it, right? When these missions sit up, MQ9 intelligence, other bases have maybe like a space mission or a cyber mission. Congress has been able to throw money at solving the war problem, so we get orders like MPA orders to put people on. But what has always lagged is building that support network up. The Mission Support Group and Med Group have never been built up properly. So we've got authorizations on this base for people, for equipment, for facilities, and it's usually based on like what's your full-time manpower look like, which is usually about 30% of your wing in a guard unit. But we've got all these other folks on Title 10 orders, and they're basically full-time employees here all the time. And what didn't come with that is extra people in the FSS, extra people in ComFlight, extra people in CE to build out that need. So you probably feel the brunt of that, don't you? I mean, you guys are like turning DD-214s down there. You guys have
for
people
sure.
coming, yeah.
For sure. We've seen an overload of 214s lately with the people coming off orders and going back on.
Yeah, like the MOB just started, right? So that's probably a big lift for y'all down there.
Oh, yes.
How's that do to the morale?
I feel like we do pretty good with the people in our office. We still get out and work out and do stuff, even though we do have to work, and that keeps it up. So we're not just in there 24/7 working, but So,
and that's I think it's a great example of this wing as a whole, right? I mean, you're an FSSer, so we'll stick on that example, but we get a surge, we get the MOB, and when the MOB ends, you get a bunch of 214s, right? Or whatever the issue is, and the FSS isn't manned the way that an active duty FSS would be, and you guys are getting the job done.
oh yeah,
You're getting it done with high morale, right? You're getting a job. I'll tell you what, you guys are a team in there.
We are.
I love walking in there, except when Bobbitt and Osorio Green are there. Other than that, I like walking in. When those two are there, I duck, dodge. What are the 5 Ds? Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. Right? The rest of y'all bring my morale up to see what a tight knit team you guys are.
Yeah.
Out there on the track, PTing or going to lunch or whatever.
We've definitely become one in there. I do. I like and enjoy working with who I work with. So
you are. What is your full-time job? Are you Title V?
I'm a Title V now. I am.
Right.
And then I'm a drill status as well. So yes.
But when I got here a couple years ago, were you an in-def or you were a temp there for a while?
So I started out as a temp 365.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got a temp permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And then as of last week, I'm a Title V.
So that feels good, right?
It does.
Moving
it
from
does.
like no security. There's a paycheck there, but it could go away any day, right?
Exactly.
And there's like a little more security as an in-def.
It definitely does.
And now you're in the full-time system, right?
Yes, it's good not to have to worry about if you're going to have security or not. I do.
So do you like being here full-time?
I do, actually. I like being out here. Not bad.
What's the long-term plan look like? Stay here until you retire as a chief?
Yeah, I think I want Chief
so?
Bobbitt's job.
You want Chief Bobbitt's job?
I want his job.
Yeah, well, that can't be too hard. If Bobbitt can do it. I'm just kidding. I'm just
my
kidding.
gosh.
Bobbitt's
I'll come
awesome.
back and
Bobbitt
get
is really awesome. Yeah, well, I love having you here. I love having your team there. So let's jump on to the mission support group as a whole, right? What do they got going on? Man, MSG's busy. I'm going to be biased, being a former MSG commander. My heart beats fast for the MSG. Supporting the base, right? Supporting it with comm, supporting it with CE, with our infrastructure, supporting it with force support, supporting it with security, supporting it with logistics. They get the job done to make sure that this base runs, right? We've got Title 10 missions every day at all hours happening down there, and the MSG makes sure that infrastructure, whether it's personnel, people, human capital, human resources, physical resources, make sure we're safe, secured, equipped, trained, and getting it done. But on top of that, MSG puts people downrange. I mean, that's what we do, right? I mean, you said you're Title V, but you're also a DSG, right?
Correct, yes, sir.
So back in December of last year when we were doing the exercise, what were you guys exercising for?
Downrange,
right? Was that fun?
It was different. It was new to me. But yes.
It's hard to hop on the computer and hack away when you get your Mop 4
gear.
gloves on, right?
Wearing mop gear is always fun.
I definitely like OCPs better, but
Who doesn't? But it was neat to go through that exercise together because ultimately that's the job, right? The job is confront our enemies, confront evil wherever it is, right? And part of this wing confronts it from ebbing. Part of this wing supports that, and then also deploys. So you got a 2-tier job, right?
I do.
Like Miss Crawford, Title V Miss Crawford's got to get the job done so that Building 237 is out there getting it done, and then you got to put the uniform on, put the chem gear on, and be ready to go and help services put up tents and do sweeps looking for injuries or body parts for casualty recovery, right? I mean, the ugly part of what we do, right?
Correct,
Necessary but ugly part of what we do. So MSG, man, that's what they do. They they support the base, they deploy, and then they've got this whole training mission. It's CE heavy, but it's supported by the base. It's called the Regional Training Site, formerly Red Horse. I think people on this base will still say Red Horse, right? We call our auditorium, people still call it the Red Horse Training Center, the RHTS, which we haven't had a Red Horse mission here in years. But we have training going on. People see the equipment over there by the CE building. They call it the dog bone, right? We do rapid airfield damage repair, and we're going to teach a crane operator course here in this year, and bare-base electrical distribution, and I think what else are we doing? ROPU, reverse osmosis water purification. So we're doing like a handful, like 3-4 certification courses, and then we have units that have to come here and train, like part of the CE cycle.
And are those taught by our people here, or are there people coming in to teach them?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I mean, the schoolhouse is run on the CE side by Chief Swaim, Bobby Swaim's team. So he's got a cadre of instructors and they do a lot of the instruction out there. But we do have some guest help. There's an emergency management course called the Spears course, and I think Chief Rich is going to be sad that I can't remember because he's told me this acronym a whole bunch. It's a long acronym. It's like specialized personnel and equipment. I don't know, something like that. Josh, forgive me.
Austere
or something. Yeah, Spears. It's emergency managers, and it's part of their readiness training where they are going out and doing that EM mission in an austere environment. They're going in, with their weapons drawn, where there's enemy in the area, and then going in and doing that sea burning or whatever else they got to do. That happens out on Fort Chaffee. And that's where we have guest help. So we have a small cadre that runs it, but then we'll bring in EM instructors from other bases that'll come in for those courses 4 or 5 times a year. So it's busy, right? So we're moving that training from right here on our main base out to, there's an annex location right off Mazard Road, which is, when I say the RTS, that's what I'm talking about, is that location out there. And have you ever been out to that location? You haven't been to Det 1 for OG. Have you been out to the RTS?
I have not.
Carrisa, we gotta get you a walk-in. We gotta get you around.
I need to get out the office and go explore some.
So when we did the exercise, were you part of the team that was out sweeping, looking for body parts?
I was.
Okay, so that was out at the RTS. They drove you out off the base, put you on a bus.
The big airplane.
Drove you around.
Looks like there's an airplane in the middle. It's for the firefighters.
I don't remember getting bussed out.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I thought you guys. Maybe they did on base, and I got killed off day 3 of the war during the exercise and put in a room. So I probably have bad information on that. But yeah, so it's at the end of Mazard Road, and we need to get you down there to see it, right?
Yes.
They got dorms down there. They got some hooches to sleep in. They got a little rec space down there. They got some older training spaces, but we're building that out over the next several years. We're going to be moving the Raider training from main campus down there. We're going to be adding equipment warehouse. A lot of the CE equipment that we see on the base, you see a lot of the big bulldozers and excavators and all that stuff. A lot of that equipment's going to be out there in about 2 years, and we'll think, hey, where did it all go? And it just moved out to our other training.
So they're moving the radar training out there too?
Yeah. So right now it's done right near the CE building where all that equipment sits, kind of behind the parking lot where all the Title 10 folks park. We're gonna pour another training runway.
What does that stand for? Rapid
Airfield Damage Repair.
Okay.
Raider. Not radar, but Raider. Like
Raider.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, it's a much cooler name. So that's all going to move out there. So there's a lot going on in Mission Support Group. And the last one, not the least, is our medical group, right? Med group is they're the smallest in terms of like the full-time staff, their full-time presence here, because the Guard's not built to run a clinic like you would on an active duty base. So the majority of our med group folks are DSGs coming in and maintaining an absolutely peak level of capability, right? Most of them are practitioners. We have doctors, we have nurses, optometrists, medical technicians. They got to come here with that skill, and then we make them go through all this additional training on top of that, so they can go do this expeditionary medicine capability in the battle space, right? And that's what I would want, right? If you're downrange and you get hurt, you hope that those pros have their regular medical training and that expeditionary training, so they can get to you under duress, under fire, right?
100%.
Right? You want to?
I want them to have all the training they can get.
To come home. Yeah, you know it. So they got a heavy lift. Colonel Thorby's team over there has a heavy lift to meet that expeditionary training. The full-time staff is here to do our case management and make sure the flyers are getting off the DNIF status and all that stuff. But you know what else? They're really heavily involved in our SPP, the state partnership program. For those that aren't as familiar, right? We have a partnership with Guatemala where we go down to Guatemala a couple times a year and we do some training with them, and then they come up here and they do some training with us. And the state is pretty big at it. The Army does a lot with it. Within the 188th, our ops group has some integration, but Med Group picks up a heavy lift on SPP. I don't know if that's because the Guatemalans need it or because Lieutenant Colonel Mudge is a sneaky little guy and figures out how to get himself on a trip down to Guatemala like 2 or 3 times a year. I don't know. He's pretty good at it, though. I'm jealous because I never get to go anywhere.
So what do they do when they go on those trips?
Big picture, we're training, helping the Guatemalans train and increase their capacity. So I know, as of recent, I don't know if it was the Comfort or the Mercy. The Navy has those 2 big hospital ships. I think it was the.
You remember which one it was? USS Comfort.
Comfort, yeah. So the Comfort was down there, and our med group went down and did a bunch of training, working that intermediate staging, right? As people are processing, coming onto the ship, taking people off the ship, they were helping the Guatemalans learn how to do that, so that if in a time of war or time of emergency, we showed up with one of our ships or somebody else did, that they would be more adept at being able to move patients on and off. I think that's what they're doing, but again, if I'm wrong, I'll blame Colonel Mudge for not giving me a good update on that.
Yeah, they've been having some fun. I have signed off on a couple checklists, and I'm like, you get to go there?
Yeah, it's not fair, huh?
I'm tagging along next time.
I know. But you guys got to go to Gulfport last year, right?
We did. Did
you go down to Gulfport?
I was round, and I was out there.
That's right. You were with child. You
I was.
Didn't have him there. Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was fun to get away from base and explore something
Was that the
new.
first time you did a summer AT training somewhere at a different location?
Yes, it was.
So those are things, I don't know if you're old enough, Chauncey, if you've ever done those. Were you here when we still had jets and we would do that?
No, I didn't come to the wing until we no longer had aircraft.
Okay. So for the old folks out there, well, not old, let's say the more experienced folks out there, when we had aircraft, that was kind of a part of the culture that I hear often that people miss was we used to go to, we'd pack the whole wing up, we'd go down to Gulfport or somewhere else and run our exercise there. Mm-hmm. So it's great that Force Support Squadron got to do that. I know LRS was trying to lead a charge and get multiple squadrons, get some security folks, some FSS folks, and go out to Dover Air Force Base and do some training at an active airfield, doing some aerial port training and things like that. And the budget just got cut short and we weren't able to go. But that's training that I hope we get to continue doing in the future because it does build that great bond, right? I mean, you probably got to know folks that you maybe at a whole nother level, right? Yeah,
we got to mix with services. Some LRS people did join us last year on our Keesler trip, and then we have a new trip planned for this upcoming FY for annual training in a different location, so that'll be fun too. So
do you have any stories from that trip last year that you want to dime anybody out? Was like Mass getting silly or anything like that, or anybody you want to,
Mass and I were pregnant.
You were both pregnant
together, and
at the same time?
we were roommates.
Sweating it out down there in Gulfport, huh?
Absolutely, it was steaming.
Did anybody get in trouble at a level that you want to own up to on a podcast?
Like
not real trouble, like kind of trouble.
Not
did
that I can
you have to
think
rein Vaughn
of.
in or nothing like that?
We had to put her in line a couple times.
But that's normal, right?
It's
That's normal. Yeah.
100% normal.
Just getting her excitement. I call it drama or excitement, getting it back down, right? Yeah. All right. So that's kind of the walk around the wing, right?
Right.
We got the four groups. Wing staff always forgotten about, right? Our wing staff does great work bringing it all together. And I love that. I love being part of that team up there on the wing staff now. So can we go to the big question that everybody always wants to talk about, which is foreign military sales, right? The big lift on this base. FMS. And it seems like folks either love talking about FMS or they cringe talking about FMS, right? It's either I'm super excited about the changes coming or it's, oh my God, there's changes coming. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my building, right? So where do you sit on it? Just your thoughts, Carrisa.
I did want to know where I would be sitting in a couple years, or where I'd be parking. But I think sometimes change can be good.
Yeah.
Change is good. The world is evolving.
Do you have coworkers or friends here on the base that have expressed maybe some concern or fear about change not being good? What are you hearing? Give me what's the tea?
I've never heard somebody say in our office that change is not good. Now, I have heard people be worried about what the changes are going to be, but nothing bad, no.
No? What about you, Chauncey? What are you hearing? Folks, you're probably getting all the phone calls in here from PA, right? You guys get any crazy phone calls from off base?
Yes. We have got a few crazy phone calls occasionally.
Yeah? Do you get some well-informed phone calls? Some supportive phone calls?
All of the above.
Yeah. It's a great community, though, isn't it? Like, from a PA standpoint?
The most recent phone call that we received was an individual that was concerned about F-35s damaging the foundation of their home.
From noise?
From noise.
Not his job. So, yeah, let's talk serious first, is that bringing F-35s here went through a standard government environmental impact study process for that reason. And we had public scoping meetings So they modeled what the noise signature is going to look like and made that publicly available. And then there were meetings where folks could come in and look at that and discuss it before we move forward, because the government is intentional about this. We don't want to come into our military communities and bring in equipment and missions that's going to make it, unlivable there, right? So very intentional about that. But let's get to the fun side, man. So I have been through several base realignments, and I have worked on the staff during realignments, and you always get both positive and negative input for the mission. And at the first public scoping mission for here at Ebbing, you're sitting around waiting for the negative comments, and there was one comment that was, we'll put it in the negative category, and it was a local gentleman who had some cattle, he's a cattle rancher, and he made a comment about how he's concerned that the noise, it could bother cattle and all that stuff, and then he said, "But I understand it, and I'm pro-military, and if it's got to happen, it's got to happen." And you're just like, wow, that's the negative comment in Fort Smith about this coming in, right?
Yeah, there was no negative commentary that came out of the public hearings.
It's
at
great.
All.
It's a great community to be in the
I will
military.
say Fort Smith is very pro-military.
Do you ever have
Anywhere
folks,
you
like
go,
when you're in uniform, thank you for being in service and stuff?
everywhere I go. So it is different going out now in civilian clothes and not being in uniform. Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody like buy you lunch at a restaurant?
Yes.
That's happened several times to me. Like and it feels awkward.
It definitely does.
And I mean, the first thing I say is thank you. It's amazing to be in this community and say thank you.
Right.
And then I say, if you see somebody with stripes on their chest, buy them lunch all day long, right? Yeah.
Right.
But so let's F-35s. They're loud.
Yeah, they're loud.
They're loud.
So, some people had expressed other concerns about the mission bringing some additional work to them, and if there was going to be any additional manning to make up for that. How do you think that will affect us as far as workload goes at the 188th Wing?
Yeah, so workload like us in our current jobs,
Right.
getting extra work.
Yes, sir.
So I'll be very honest, right? We're going to get extra manpower, and there's going to be extra work for at times, right? Long-term sustainment. We're going to build this program out right. We're going to make sure that we get the right manpower and the right resources so that the missions of the 188th and the mission of the 33rd Fighter Wing, which is the Air Education Training Command wing down in Florida, who owns the mission to train the foreign pilots here, they're going to they already have a detachment on the base. It'll grow into a squadron, and then eventually it'll grow into a group, the 85th Fighter Training Group. They're going to be primarily responsible for executing the training. The 188th Wing is going to be responsible for all the support that goes around that in a normal, what we call a host-tenant relationship, just like you see on other bases, right? We have that down at Little Rock Air Force Base. You've got the 19th Airlift Wing. That's the host wing. It's their base. But then the 189th Air National Guard, right, our sister wing down there, is on their base doing their mission. That's a host-tenant relationship. So that's what we're going to build out here.
When the 33rd Det 1 converts to a group, is that going to stay under 33rd?
It will, yep. So, what I don't want to do is jump into the exact structure because those things are still being worked, and I don't want to inadvertently say something that's taken out of context here. But what we do know is the plan is, they'll grow a fighter group. They'll have an 06, a group commander, who I think is going to PCS in this fiscal year to this base. So they'll have a group commander, and they'll have a couple squadrons. There's going to be the 425th Fighter Squadron, which already exists. It's out at Luke Air Force Base. That's the Singapore F-16 squadron. They're going to come out here. And then there'll be another squadron that stands up that is for the F-35 training. So that squadron is not yet created. It's in the works. They're still putting that force structure together, and what's that manpower look like, and how many instructors, and what other support jobs you need to create that entire group that can supervise both of those squadrons, execute all the maintenance, the flying, all that stuff, right? That's going to be done by the 33rd Wing. But you don't have a flying operation on a base without a lot of support, right? Somebody's got to bring fuel from the fuel yard and get it to those jets. Somebody's got to move parts through warehouses. Somebody's got to manage that airfield and manage the airspace and the range. And we got to secure the base and do communications and all those normal functions. All those functions are going to grow within the 188th Wing, right? So what we're looking at right now is 103 full-time positions in the 188th organization, not that 85th fighter training group that's going to grow here. They're going to have their own manpower, but we are going to add 103 positions to our manning document so that we aren't taking extra work in our current jobs, right? I mean, I don't mind making you go work extra, Chauncey. I mean, you're probably great with putting gas in jets. You're probably on top of that.
Let me.
Yeah.
Just give me a holler. I'll go gas a jet up anytime.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing, right? So, I mean, if all we do is say, hey, Chris Cooper, you're one man deep right now on full time, right? And we're going to hire that second full-time POL position out. But once that's hired out, like our 2 full-time POL folks aren't going to be able to do all that work. There's just no way they can meet our needs for our fuels missions, all that radar mission we talked about, the CE folks. That's a lot of diesel fuel they got to move out there, right? And all of our ground vehicles. So we're going to grow 7 full-time POL positions in addition to the ones that are already on the books with the LRS. So that's an example. Now, you asked, hey, is it going to be extra work for us right now in our mission, right? There's a little bit of risk there, right? I want to be very transparent that we're going to have to hire those positions out. But if the jets show up and need to fly, and let's say we've only got 2 or 3 of the 7 extra positions hired out, jets got to get fuel in them. We got to make training happen, right? Now the good news is it's not like all these jets are showing up day one, right? You're going to have 1 jet show up and then 2 jets show up, and they'll trickle in and they'll space out. So I'm pretty confident that we are going to get all 103 positions hired out and funded out in a timely manner. Most of them are going to be Title V civilian positions, and that's kind of given to us by law. When you do foreign military sales training, the way the law is written is that you're supposed to create civilian positions, and that's paid for by the foreign countries. Like when they come here to train, they kind of got to, just like our bases in Japan or Germany, we're paying for our rent on their installation, and we're paying for our labor. And if we need local Germans to work on the base, we're gonna pay that, right? Because it's our mission. And so the same is true here. The foreign countries, when they come here to train, their money, I think it gets like legally money laundered through their country and the State Department, and somehow it gets down into an account that we can pay from our civ pay that Captain Wells and his team have to do all the money laundering for us. If you guys need to launder money, go. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. It's all legal and clean and legit. But yeah, so we're supposed to use Title V positions to the max extent we can. If there's a job that must be a military position, it's like inherently military, then you can use an AGR. So, for example, the instructor pilots. There's not a whole lot of civilian F-35 pilots just walking around in Arkansas, right? So those will be military positions that the 33rd Wing brings to the table.
Then will the security positions, will they be AGRs? Will those be Title V's as well?
Yeah, what we're looking at right now, again, this is all still in the works, but it's pretty. We'll call it, as I like to say, it's like cold flan. It's not like firm, but it's firm as a cold flan would be, like almost firm, right? Mm-hmm. That's a food reference for those who have no idea what flan is. Go get some flan. It's great stuff. So what we're looking at is 36 security forces positions that are already on the books. Are going to convert from a DSU position to an AGR position over this year and next year. When is a function of we're just waiting on the funding to get locked up, and then we want to start hiring. We want to start hiring soon. So those are going to be the AGR jobs we're looking at. There's a couple others potentially, like we may get 1 or 2 in force support, customer service positions, because we're going to have to do extra ID cards and all that stuff. That may be an AGR. It may be a Title V. That's still up to debate. The rest of them are all going to be Title Vs. So, I mean, we're looking at positions in the LRS, everything from fuels to TMO to material management. I think, ground ops maybe get some. Vehicle maintenance definitely gets some. A few positions in communications flight. Safety is going to grow. Razorback range, where you're going to go visit and not throw eggs, right?
Correct.
Right? Razorback range is going to grow, so we can get a second shift out there. We're going to have to stand up an airfield management flight, which we haven't had since we had airplanes. Like I mentioned, a little bit more in force support. So there's a lot of growth. It's 103 total. Do the math. What's 36 AGRs and security forces minus? You don't have to do the math. If you're sitting at home, you want to do the math, have at it. That's how many Title V positions we're going to get. And we want to start hiring soon. We start hiring real soon.
Full base, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're down there in force support squadron, and we've got our normal battle rhythm, right? And now we've got to hire 103 more people like this year. How's that going to go over?
Looks like Rayford and Overstreet have some work to do.
They got some work to do at HRO, don't they? They got some work to do, yeah.
That'll be crazy.
It will be crazy. In a good way, though, right?
Yeah.
So the original question, concern, is it going to be extra work for us, right?
Yes.
There'll be a transition period. right? There's going to be a transition. FSS is it's going to be a lot of hiring, right? If you're in one of these squadrons that's going to be gaining a lot of positions, you got a lot of Form 52s to fill out and get hiring done, right? And you know what I really expect is a lot of these jobs are going to be filled by us. And so there's going to be like a waterfall effect, right? So simple example, I think we're getting 16 positions in firefighting. Right now, those are programmed to be Title V positions. We've got 15 state firefighter positions right now. Some of those folks that are state employees in our fire department may decide, hey, I want to get into the federal system. And some may want to stay in the state system. Depends on where they are in their career, right? But let's just assume, let's say half of them move over, right? So we go, yay, we hired 8 of our 16 Title V firefighters. Well, you really didn't grow at all. You just moved from one system to the other. I still got to hire, I got to back hire those 8 and hire the additional 8. So I still have, so it's not like 103 hiring actions. It's probably going to be closer to like 175 hiring actions to get all these folks on board. Right. Yeah. If you can't see Chris's eyes right now, they're big. They're like, oh no, what's coming? So that's what you're talking about, Chauncey. Is there going to be more work for us in the interim? There is. There's no way around it. Right. We're taking on an incredible mission on this base, and with it's going to come some work, but we are building it out right. So in the long term, once we get past this initial wave, we'll be back to the level of professional hard work that we do already on this base. But I think it's going to be sustainable, and I know that we've got an amazing team in place across this wing to get it done.
Well, since the FMS mission was announced, there's been a lot of movement on base with buildings, and there's quite an extensive future infrastructure plan. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So what have you seen any of the plans, Carrisa? You have any idea what's going on?
I haven't, but I've seen how people talk about how massive the map is and all the points and all that. And I'm like, I really wonder where I'll be in about 5 to 10 years sitting on base. That'll be crazy.
I think Chauncey and I agree. You're going to be sitting in Chief Bobbitt's office. I think that's where you're going to be. That's where you're going to be sitting. Right? We're going to get that guy out. FSS isn't moving. FSS is staying where it is. Right. So, so this project, normally when you do construction and renovation on a base, your base CE squadron gets the requirements from the mission operators, right? And you put together projects and NGB funds it and we build it out. When you bring in a new mission like this, AETC, as the MSgt that owns the mission, should be responsible for helping build that out. Well, this project is so big that AETC, it exceeded their capacity to manage it, and so the Air Force Civil Engineering Center had to step in. And so there's a project management team at AFCEC who is managing this, and they have hired a company called the Urban Collaborative to come in and do a master plan. So it's a bunch of architects and engineers, and a lot of people in our wing got to participate in the design reviews. So it kicked off over the summer, and Urban Collaborative came out here in July, and they got all the base drawings and all that stuff, and they got all the requirements from the FMS and all the requirements from us, so that all of the missions could be sustained on ebbing. And they put together this concept for how the base needs to transition in the lowest cost and most effective manner, right? That's why you hire professionals to do it. I call it the $1 billion base. Now, I have no idea what the actual cost is going to be, but it's going to be a lot, right? So with a little bit of jest, I call it the $1 billion base, because when you look at what's happening on this base, it's amazing. When the FMS program was first pitched as an idea, the original site survey envisioned one new building, right? The existing facilities were going to be utilized and renovated, and then they were going to construct one new building, and that was going to have like simulators for the F-35 and all the classified facilities and all that stuff, and that's where the squadron operations would be while they train. And then the requirement kept growing, and the number of countries that wanted to come here kept growing. And so as we've been in this 2-year process of trying to plan it out, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, I think finally we've reached kind of like a decision point where it can only get so big. And so that's what Urban Collaborative did. They came in and they put out a master plan for the base, what it looks like. That concept is available. There's limited details we can talk about, and not because they're classified, but because anytime you put a contract out there, companies compete over that. So what we can't talk about is what's that going to cost, or how much money are we going to spend? So when I jokingly say the $1 billion base, it's just a big number that sounds fun, and it's got a little alliteration there. And I came up with it, so I like it, right? That's the benefits of being the boss, is everybody has to laugh and smile and pretend that what I just said was funny. Yeah, see, Carissa's like pretending to laugh, and Chauncey's rolling his eyes right now. As we increase our communication capacity here, and we kind of finalize that plan, I think January or February is when that plan, when it's going to be finalized, and we will kick that out maybe through the app or whatever way we can, so people can see what that final design concept looks like. But
Through the Air Force Connect app?
Through the Air Force Connect app, you bet. I'm going to be pushing that hard. If you're listening to this, get the Air Force Connect app, because we're going to start communicating wholesale through that. Do you have the Air Force Connect app, Carrisa?
I'm afraid to say I've never heard of it.
Okay, you're walking out of this room with it on. You have your phone with you?
I do.
All right.
I was wondering. I'm like, what app are y'all talking about?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We're going to hit that hard. So, is it okay if I hit some of the highlights?
Sure. I got one question about the infrastructure real quick.
Yeah.
What about parking?
Yeah, so that's a big highlight,
Yeah, that's
right?
that's
not even a highlight.
huge.
Yeah, so here's the concept. When the architect came in, they looked at, you got to put a lot of airplanes, right? So in the past, I think the most we had was 24 aircraft, right? Primary assigned aircraft. There's the potential. Right now, the program of record is 36, so 50% bigger than we ever were, with the potential to grow past that based on interest, right? And that's still in the process of can we expand? Do we got to do another environmental look, and all that stuff? But so they designed this concept to include us growing, 48 jets or whatever, right? It's just a concept at this point. To facilitate that concept, the architectural firm looked at it and said, hey, everything along the flight line, they call that beachfront property, right? Like you don't build support stuff on beachfront property. You put beach stuff there, right? Beach stuff is airplanes, hangars, airplane facilities, parking, right? So we're going to maximize that space. And then right off that beachfront property is where your support infrastructure is going to go. And then all the way out on the outside is going to be parking. And if you look at the base on the map, it kind of looks like a boomerang structure, right? So you kind of have these two big parking lots, the north one and the south one. And everybody's going to come in off Phoenix Drive, Phoenix Avenue, Boulevard, whatever it is, come off Phoenix and park in one of those two parking lots. And then there's going to be turnstiles, and you just swipe your CAT card, you walk through the turnstile. Now they're positioned so that if you work down at building 237 or that end of the base, right now you already park right there. It's going to be the same spot. We're going to take that parking lot, we're going to make it bigger. Where the CE equipment is, remember I mentioned earlier in this podcast, we're going to move that out to the Mazard Road location. So that training space, that's all going to be parking space. But the fence will be moved in, and so you'll just come in right off Phoenix, you'll park right there, and you'll hit the turnstile at the bridge that crosses the ditch, and you'll walk right into building 237 or walk to the pool or wherever. You're going to pretty much be parking in the same spot. We're just going to be adding parking because now all of our partners from Singapore are going to be down there parking with you, working in, building 230, 216, 218, the hangar, right? Well, there's going to be another big parking lot. And that's what's currently right outside the base. So right before you're driving in the base through the main gate, there's a bunch of grass to the left and the right as you're driving on Airport Boulevard. That's going to be parking spaces out there. And we're going to put turnstiles in, and you're going to be able to walk right in to the location. And my parking spot also going out there. So it's not like we're going to make the masses park out there and then, special people get to park inside. There will be handicap parking spaces for our, retirees that need to come in and get ID cards, and there'll be spots where you can park your car and unload the Snacko stuff. But the concept is we're all going to park out, and then it's a walkable campus because it's not a big base. You can walk anywhere in 10 minutes on the base. So
right, that's
the first highlight. Parking, it is an issue. We're going to add 600 parking spots to the base. I think we have just under 1,000 parking spots right now. And we're going to add 600 more because that's how many folks are coming in here on this base when it gets built all the way out. Parking. You excited about that? Probably not the parking spot, but
I'll be excited if I get a parking spot inside the gates.
So nobody gets a parking spot inside the gate. Like that's the whole idea. Yeah.
Even the handicap is outside the gate.
No, the
if
handicap.
You ride your bicycle.
Yeah. So
probably.
Yeah. If you're handicapped, there will be parking spots inside the base.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the same for, like, say if somebody a worker hurt themselves and had like a boot, is there going to be parking for them inside the base?
So something like that, we probably just get Med Group to write something up and
Gotcha.
let them park in a handicap spot or something like that. So yeah. So that's a great question. But yeah. So we're not gonna make people walking off. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get me one of those like electric razor scooters. And
I just
zip
told
around.
my coworker
Zip
that we
around like
need
I'm 12.
scooters.
Yeah.
I think
We
I
need
would just
mopeds.
like to get some rollerblades, take it back to the 90s.
Oh,
To the rollerblades, yeah, with lots of hot pink and light blue and green, yeah.
Well, they got to, match the uniform.
I might
So-
be able to do that. I'm
Yeah.
not in uniform during the week anymore.
You know what my worry is? Like, there's an old saying that every guardsman has a side hustle. I'm worried that somebody on this base. You ever see those like rent-a-scooters when you go up, to like bigger cities or downtown areas that you just swipe your card and you rent the. I'm worried that somebody's gonna like try to bring those on like as their side hustle and try to start a business like renting scooters on base. Which,
I'm not going to say any names, but we literally just had
did you
this conversation
down in
this
the- yeah.
morning.
Was it Bobbit?
Maybe we should
Was it
preempt
Bobbit?
it.
No.
We
Yeah.
could preempt it and use it to raise money.
Raise funds for something
Morale
good.
fund.
I'm gonna get me a little electric scooter. No, I won't because
Hey, that could be
I
fun.
gotta,
They
I
have
gotta
little.
stay fit for my PT test. But
That's a good.
yeah. Yeah, and that that's like the evil darkness inside of me. I'm like, you can't walk across the base, but you're gonna deploy downrange and have to go fight in your chem gear. Come on. But I get it, right? It rains.
good idea.
It rains sometimes. Nobody wants. It's cold and rainy, and you got to bring the Snacko stuff in, or you got a boot on your foot because you got surgery. Like, well, there will be some some handicap and some access. But for the most part, right? The idea, we park on the perimeter and we walk it in.
Who's
I was
going to be
wondering-
the person who drives their side-by-side out to their parking space
yeah.
each day?
Yeah, because they're.
Or their trailers on their truck and take up 5 parking
Yeah, I
spots.
know. Let's Bob it with his boat, huh? He keeps coming up a lot.
So in addition to the parking, I think I heard someone saying something about moving the static displays out.
Yeah, so the concept includes 2 buildings being constructed where our static display aircraft are right now. So the 85th Fighter Training Group that I mentioned, they got to have a group headquarters somewhere. So what that concept shows, they're going to basically do an addition to the wing headquarters building and build that group a headquarters building right where pretty much where like the F-16 and the F-4 are, and it'd be a hallway going out of the conference room that's right off Force Support Squadron. There'd be a hallway that goes straight out there into that new group building.
I was wondering why they were asking where we could put a door at.
Yeah. So
That's where
that
it's
hallway
coming.
would just keep going. You'd still get your conference room, but there's the hallway was just going to go straight through, right? You're going to lose the view of the track from those windows in the FSS. You'd be looking at the 85th group building. And then where the other ones sit, the F-101 and the F-100, that pretty much that whole space is going to be where the F-35 simulator and academic classroom space is. It's a large building, right? It's going to take up a whole bunch of that space. So the static display aircraft, the plan, we're going to move them across Phoenix. This is the plan. Nothing's done until the money's in the bank and it's done. But that land has all been incorporated or is in the process of being incorporated into our lease from the city of Fort Smith. They came across and said, hey, it's in the interest of the city and the community to include that land into the base because when the base grows, the city grows. So that there's a little bit of land in between like Home Depot and what's that? Sodi's. Is that the restaurant right there?
Mm-hmm.
So right.
Chinos.
Yeah, where the pizza shop and
Gusanos.
Gusano's
right,
and
Gusano's.
yeah. So that there's that grass in between those 2 developments right there. So that's kind of where we're looking at is moving the static display aircraft over there and turn it like into a little park, which I think will be great, right? Because now people are driving by, they'll see the airplanes out there. I think it'll draw more attention to the base.
And they'll know how to turn at the light and get to our base.
That's right. You can say, drive to the airplanes, turn at the light, right? And they'll see them out there. So there's a lot of bases that have done that. I was stationed at Dice Air Force Base years ago, and that's what they did, is they reshaped their gate and they made their static display outside of the gate so that the public could come on and look at the heritage and look at those airplanes. And
they did that at Little Rock Air Force Base just a few years
Did
ago.
they do that? Yeah.
They moved one of the C-130s out where you can see it driving down the freeway now.
Yeah, and it looks great. And, the public tends to enjoy that because they can go take
Oh,
pictures
yeah.
and it makes our heritage more part of the community instead of kind of closed off behind the fence. So I think it's a positive thing.
I think it's a great thing.
It
Maybe
is.
less people will say, oh, I didn't know you were there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so now we've got all these other little projects, right? There's all this big stuff for FMS, but what about us? What about the 188th, right? So for those that haven't been to the new gym's up and running. Have you been in the gym?
I have not.
You have not.
But I do have a question about
Okay,
that.
fire away.
So we did update our gym, and I've heard it looks nice. I have seen pictures, but with all the new people coming, will we have to redo it? Because will we be at a max?
Ooh, is the gym going to be full?
Exactly.
Right,
Will
right.
we have
Well,
enough
that's a really
equipment
good question.
to hold everyone that's coming.
Great
Is
question.
it going to be available for the active duty or FMS people also?
That's
or
a
is that
great
just
question.
ours?
That's a great question. Largely, it's just ours. So here's the way it works, right? Let me go back to what I talked about earlier, a host-tenant relationship. If you go down to Little Rock Air Force Base, they probably have a much bigger gym than we do because that installation gym is sized based on the requirements of all the people that work on the base, right? Now, when you're a tenant unit, when you come in, you sign this thing. It's called a support agreement, where you go, hey, host base, I'm asking for support from you. You know, will you provide me a gym, right? And so we've looked at this in the planning process. Most of the 600-ish people that will eventually be here in the later part of this decade working are not going to be U.S. military. Most of them are going to be government civilian positions, contractor positions, or foreign pilot trainees that are on the base. And there has been no request for them to utilize those services. And we looked at that. We asked it, right? Because that would come with a build-out, right? So let's like Singapore specifically. We talked to them in the early stages and said, hey, are you going to want to utilize? Because there's going to be a lot of our Sing partners on the base. Are y'all going to want to use our gym? If so, there's going to be a bill. You're going to have to help pay to build a larger facility. And their answer was it's more financially beneficial to them to go off base into the economy. So the answer is most of the folks are going to go on the economy. The active duty folks will probably want to sign that support agreement, but you're talking like a handful. There's probably going to be less than 30 actual active duty people on the base. Most of is contractor civilian positions. So I don't think that the new gym is going to get overwhelmed at all. But have you been to the new gym, Chauncey?
I have, sir.
Do you like the new gym?
It has weights.
It has weights. It's the same equipment, right? It's not like we bought new. It's the exact same equipment.
Right.
I like it. You know, I think when it's January, February, I'm going to like it a lot more than the hangar because it was always cold in the 3-bay hangar. The heater system just couldn't keep up with it. So
have you checked the heater system in the new gym?
Not yet because it hasn't been cold yet. But I did go in there when it was a CE building before I kicked Bobby Swaim and his stuff out of there to take it over. Sorry about that, Bobby. We put the HVAC system that was in the big hangar. If you go in there into the new gym, you'll notice there's an HVAC system at both ends. That was the same system that was in the big hangar. So instead of a 17,000 square foot hangar, you've got the same HVAC system in a 6,000 square foot building. So to me, I'm no HVAC guy, but I think it's going to work better. It's going to work better, yeah. And we're not done. We're going to do some. Over the next several years, we're going to do some cleanup projects. We're going to put some sidewalks back there. We're going to get some more grass. We're going to make it look nice. That'll go through the facilities working group of how do we want that space to look back there. We're going to do. I say we. Steve Eubank's team and services. They have this idea of taking like the CrossFit equipment that's in the center bay of the 3-bay. That's got to go out of there, and they're going to move that under the pavilion by the pond. And set up an outdoor CrossFit space out there, which you see if you go to active duty bases, you see that it's like a new trend, right? I was down in San Antonio at Randolph not too long ago, and they had about 3 of them across the base, and people are out there just killing it, in the shade, but just killing it. So other than it gets really cold, the rest of the time you can get out there and do your outdoor CrossFit stuff, and you can, Chauncey, you can go out there with your short shorts and do some squats and just blow those quads out for us, so we can all see what excellence looks like.
And if it's cold, you can put a coat on.
You can put a coat on. Or you can go indoor into the gym and do squats in the gym because we have that there too, right? And services did an awesome job of setting that up. I think they did some surveys to figure out, what equipment's wanted. But it's great the way it's set up because you got your weights, you got your cable machines, all that stuff. And then down the middle, it's an open space where you can go in there and you can do the hammer run. So you can take the PT test in the gym when it's like snowing and you don't have to cancel for weather and you don't have to go out there and I hate the cold. I hate running in the cold.
I'm with you.
The cold also.
I cannot stand it.
Do you do the hammer run or do you do the 1.5 mile?
So I've been outside doing the hammer run a little bit, and I'm like, do I really want to do this, or do I want to do the 1.5 miles? But usually 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
But I'm looking towards the hammer run because I'm like, 5 minutes, you're done.
What about you, Chauncey? What do you do?
I run the 1.5 miles. I haven't done the hammer run yet, but I want to try it before I take a test,
Yeah.
Just go out and
Definitely
do
agree.
it. I haven't tried it yet. Everybody says that it's the right choice.
So it depends on
See, I'm a sprinter.
Yeah.
So if you're long distance, I would stay with the 1.5 miles. But I'm a sprinter, and I like to
I think I'm
just do
equally
straight.
bad.
Yeah.
And so
So I think most folks say it's like the hammer is easier to pass to get your 75.
Right. Well,
Because those first couple of like level 1, level 2, like you're just walking, you know? It's like stressful to me that I'm like trying to conserve your energy, but you're like, but if I don't get there and I failed one line when I had like 7 minutes to get there, that's sad. But
that's the question for me also, though, is that like I know that I get over a 90 if I go run the 1.5 miles.
yeah.
So if I do the hammer run, is that going to affect that?
So I think folks are like pretty happy at getting to 90. But here's what seems weird if you look at the charts. So I normally run the 1.5 miles, and I normally run somewhere between like, I don't know, say 10.5 to 11.5 minutes, somewhere in there. And then, you know, 40, I'm 45 now. So I usually get like a 97, 98, do pretty good. I did the hammer just to give it a shot this year, and I got like a 93, which is still good. Still got above 90, but I dropped off like 4 or 5 points because like you said, sprinting versus running, right? Like,
How did it feel at the end?
oh, like death, man. Sergeant Polk's running it next to me, and he's just like bam, 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 back and forth.
he's a great runner.
And I'm just out there slow trying to keep up. You know, I felt like I was back in high school doing lines on the basketball court, you know, and I'm not about that, you know.
Well, did you feel worse or better with the 1.5 mile run?
I'm going to do the 1.5 miles again. I'm done with the shuttle. I'm going to
See,
go back to the 1.5 miles.
The 1.5 miles, you can pace yourself. The shuttle, it's kind of like a by ear thing. Like you just got to make it there before the beep, and you're just waiting.
Yeah.
And you never get the pace or the time limit to get there.
Yeah,
You
your
just
heart
gotta
doesn't
get
know what's
there.
going on, right? It's
Yeah.
like, what's up? It's up,
everywhere.
it's down, it's up, it's down. Yeah.
It is everywhere, and I think that's what tires people out the most.
Yeah.
Is like the stopping and going. But
I think I'm just too far in at the. You know, I'm so used to doing the 1.5 miles now.
Well, I think the advantage if you train to the hammer run is you can take it in the new gym and don't have to go outside when it's cold and everything and do it in windy. Unless like old people like me who do the 1.5 miles, I just got to suck it up and get cold and go do the thing with my awesome Air Force PT sweats on. Yeah. So we get back to infrastructure. We got off topic there.
We did.
Yeah. Killed it on the PT test. Right. So we got the new gym. The wing staff, right? They've been down in the old line shack, building 218. They're going to be moving in April to May timeframe into maybe before that, maybe March to April, into building 102, right? The old PA digs, right?
Yeah, the old public affairs office.
You missed the old office? You like this one better?
Oh, this is so much better.
Is it? Yeah.
I like being closer to you, sir.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the old public affairs office, man. I think about that. I think like asbestos and mold, and it was dirty. It was gross.
Yeah, I went
Cleaning
over
that
there
thing
and
out.
looked at the work they've done. The way they remodeled that, it looks way more usable.
Oh, they completely gutted it down to
Yeah.
nothing and built it back up. Yeah, they've done a great job in there.
It was very odd. I think that one of the issues with that was that it was just kind of a hodgepodge of add-ons over years and wasn't really planned out. And
Yeah, it was like a maze, right? You're like
Yeah.
trying to walk in. You're going through
It
hidden doors, you know?
it was like a maze.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were cleaning it out after, right before the contractor went in there. We had to just go pull all the old furniture and all that stuff out of there. And it was awful, The only good part of that was Colonel Howard and I showed up. We moved like 2 things out of the way, and we had a meeting that Colonel Gentry made us go to. So we're like, we'll be back. And we were gone like 30 minutes. Like we leave, no kidding, 30 minutes. We go to this meeting and we come back and we're like, we're going to help out. And we walk back and it's empty, right? And all you see is like the LRS team. You just see like Johnny Adams and Parker Dunn walking away, just like,
With aviator sunglasses.
with aviator sunglasses, like just flat out killed it. Just got it done. I felt so bad. I was like, I want to help. And they're like, I don't need your help. We're good. So, so
those guys are rock stars.
they are fantastic. So wing staff is moving down there into the new digs, and do not go look at it yet because it's got like the danger don't come in here with electrical wires hanging down sign. Don't do that yet. So they're going to move into there, and then that building 218 is going to just be I call it the lifeboat, right? Because pretty soon they're going to start renovating building 208, Comflight and Med Group. Chauncey's always over at Med Group. There's a girl over there he likes, so he's always over there checking that building out. Right?
This is a woman over there that I like.
Sorry, Larissa. So we're going to start renovating 208. They're going to gut it out, and they're actually going to add like I don't know, 3,000 square feet or something on
Wow.
on ComFlight. So we're gonna get like a new server room, and Med Group's gonna get new exam rooms and all that stuff. That building was about to burn down. It was like no lightning protection, and it was horrible. So
it's both ComFlight and medical eventually going back into that same building?
Yeah. So we're going to move them down to building 216, which is, empty right now, 216 or 28. There's going to be a food fight, I think, right? Because we got to move Med Group, MComFlight, and then like the 188th ISS. They're in the old hangar space. They're going to have to go down there because when the hangar gets remodeled. So there's gonna be like a food fight of who gets what temporary space to get the job done. I'm just gonna sit there with popcorn and watch, see what happens. But yeah, so we gotta move Med Group and ComFlight down the street to temporary space while we gut their building and add on to it, and then they're gonna move back into it.
So speaking of medical, since the trainee pilot trainees are coming, will our Med Group act as an active base, or will they be going on economy as well?
Little bit of both.
Okay.
Most of the people will go on the economy, just like us, right? I mean, we're all on the economy. Middle of the week, our Med Group's not seeing patients. They're doing paperwork, to get the flyers up and down and all that stuff. So they're going to the 33rd Wing, their group here is in the support agreement process. They are requesting to cohabitate our Med Group space. So they will be laundering us money to sustain our facilities. And so in the middle of the week, they will have people in there with our people utilizing that space at a small scale. So when a pilot needs to come in and get brought back up to flight status or something like that, I think they're going to have one contract flight doctor, I think. I'm like really speaking out of turn here because I'm not the expert on how they're going to man their stuff. But I think that's what they're going to do is have a contractor flight doc, one person midweek to do that, but their average everyday med needs will be on the economy, just like us. So that'll be shared space. So we got to move them out. We got to gut that building. We got to add on to it, and then we got to move them back in. All that has to happen before Singapore has to start their remodel on building 216 and 218. So that's why I call it the lifeboat. Like we're going to go down there, use that space, and then run back to our space before they need to remodel their space. So it's this big shell game of moving stuff around on the space.
Is that the Line Shack, the old Line Shack building?
The Line Shack, that's 218 and 216, the one next to it. The old, like the pod shop and all that stuff was in there. Yeah. Where we call it the TIFF. Mm-hmm. Before we had our current building 237, we had some ISR ops in there. So those two buildings are going to eventually become Singapore's. They're gonna get those and utilize those. So we also, besides 208, building 220, the ops group and ISR group headquarters, we're going to add, I don't know, I think it's 3,000 square feet or something like that. I could be off, but we're gonna add square footage onto that. When we built our SCIF, building 237, when that was constructed a few years ago, it kind of went over budget, and so it wasn't built as big as it should have. It was like a compromise, and then it was accepted because we had all this extra space on base, and we could put stuff in other buildings. And then we gave those buildings away to FMS. So NGB is going to try to make us whole, and we're going to add on. So we've got an addition on ComFlight's building. We got an addition on the ISR group. So we got a lot of stuff going on for us. In addition to the wing staff moving and the new gym moving, we got to build warehouses out at the regional training site to move all that CE equipment I talked about. That's all going to move out there. So there's a lot going on with us. Eventually, we need to put in a new gate. Because we've looked at the security, when it's already an old gate, right? I would already like to improve the security on that gate, but now you start adding lots of jets and foreign partners on the base, and the security requirements they go up, right? So we're going to need to do a new gate eventually. So we just are we're starting the design process on that.
Will our main gate entrance stay in the same spot?
That's a great question. Have you heard rumors on that?
I have.
What have you heard?
Is it going to be moved to the middle?
To the middle of the base?
To where security is?
No, that's a good rumor. No, that's not. Okay. It's not going there. Have you know where it's going, Chauncey? Have you heard that?
I heard it was just going to move down closer to Phoenix.
So in the current design plan, the new gate goes right smack in the middle of our running track. Yeah. So if you can't see it at home, Chris has just gave me the look.
Oh, because the track is going around the pond, right?
Yeah, that's the plan, right? Is we're gonna do a project. We're gonna build a new gate right where the track is, so the road can like serpentine around and do all that security stuff and have barriers and all that jazz, so that bad guys can't run the gate.
I'd rather
This
run
would
around
be
a pond
so-
anyway.
Yeah.
This was going to be so interesting.
That's gonna be. I think that's gonna be cool, right? So that's part of like architect when they're trying to put functions together, right? So your gym is back there in building 422, which is right by the pavilion where the outdoor CrossFit space is going to be, and then we're going to get the track built around the pond.
Can we build the track the correct length this time?
Yes, you don't have to do like an extra 100 meters or something like that. Yeah,
Running around.
Yeah, so Colonel Donahoe's team down in CE, they're putting that project together right now. That there's that main ditch that runs like right by the pond. They've needed to fix that because it like erodes and stuff, and they got to put some rock and stuff like that. So they're going to do one project that fixes all the drainage and the dirt space and stops the erosion and then moves the track around. So that'll realistically be a few years out. That's not like a next year thing. But that's something that we can look forward to. I think that'll be cool. So now you're going to have like the swimming pools right there, the tracks right there, the pond, the CrossFit, and then the gym all in one space. And with that when the new parking lot comes online, you'll hit that north parking lot right there, hit your CAT card, walk. It's just right there. It's not far away. And the south parking lot's actually not going to be that far away either. So it'll be a great space where your family can come in, utilize the facilities on the base. The airmen can come in, utilize the facilities. So I look forward to that. It's going to be cool.
Will there be a little fence with the track?
A little fence.
Like on the inside of the track, or will
to
it
keep
just
like
be
people out of the pond?
straight water and track?
I hope
I
it
can
won't
just
be like if you
imagine.
trip and now you're in the water.
Yeah, that's what I was
That would be a
thinking.
bad
I'd be
design.
like,
I was thinking the complete opposite. I was thinking, you can run, get all hot, and then jump
in.
in.
Maybe we'll make it go through. Like, what's that? In track and field, there's that weird event. It's like hurdles with water. You know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen that.
seen
What's
that.
I think
I don't know what it's called.
I think it's like the
but-
steeplechase or something. Like it's like but it's like if you watch,
Wow.
if you're like if you got to watch the Olympics at like 3 a.m. on on the Ocho, like ESPN, right? And
they jump off of something and have to jump
Yeah.
over a moat.
yeah, it's like a
have never
long
seen
distance
that.
run, and then there's like it's like a hurdle, but it's like a wall. It's not like a hurdle that falls over if you kick it. It's like a long distance run with like these walls, and then on the backside is like a little puddle. I don't know why.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. I've never heard of that
Oh,
or
it's old
seen
school.
it.
It's old school. I think it's the steeplechase. We're not going to do that. It's going to be a good track that you will not drown if you trip and fall into the water. So that's like my design requirement. No drowning while taking the 1.5 mile run. I don't know how you write that one up, like from a safety standpoint. Like airmen drowned while running the 1.5 mile. I don't know how you do that.
That sounds like a base closure to me.
Yeah, that's like an episode of Columbo or something like that, right? You probably don't even know what Columbo is.
No.
Old school cop show. So that's kind of the walk around, like what's happening on the wing, what's happening with the facilities, what's happening with the people. So, yeah. What else, Chauncey? What are you thinking? Is it exciting?
I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to actually have F-35s here. I've never been in a wing that had aircraft before.
I'm gonna be waking up to planes, going to sleep to planes, working with planes. I live 6 minutes away, so it's gonna be airplanes all day, every day.
Yeah, I live right on the other side of the airport by the air traffic control tower. It's exciting. Are you excited?
I am. I wish I could see what it looked like now.
So did this conversation help maybe tamp down some of those fears, or did it make more fears? You got more
No.
questions?
No, you answered pretty much
Yeah.
everything. I don't have any fears. I just wish I could see it.
Yeah, I can't wait till they finalize that design concept, then we can like publish it and just go, hey, this is what it's going to be, right?
I need to go over and see it. See if I can go see the plane.
And it's happening now. Like if you go out on the flight line, you can see there's spray paint all over the concrete because they're going to start tearing that out this month and refurbishing the concrete on the main
The guy
route.
that was out there doing the surveying stopped me the other day to ask me what the giant metal thing was between the buildings right here.
Mm-hmm.
The ramp for semi-trucks.
Oh, yeah, the ramp, yeah, the loading
I
dock.
always ask myself that
what's
too.
the
I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "That's the ramp." And I'm
It's
like,
a loading dock.
Yeah, it's like where
I've
semi-trucks
never
back
seen-
up, yeah. So that's another project that's like small stuff, right? That loading dock is going to get ripped out because it won't work with all the airplanes that are going in, and they're going to move and build a whole new loading dock. So that's stuff that's happening like right now. That was, fiscal year 23 money. man, I think there was like $87 million that's already been signed into contract to work on this space, right? Moving the loading dock, repairing the ramps, repairing the sunshades, building 108, the LRS building. There's going to get a $1.3 million remodel in that warehouse, because that's going to be shared space for us and F-35s. I mean, there's $87 million. That's temporary space. When the first countries get here, the first couple of countries get here to fly, all the new builds aren't going to be done. All the new hangars, because we're adding like 2 or 3 new hangars. They're not going to be done. So they're going to have to set up these temporary hangars. It's going to look like Kandahar Air Base here for a while, which I think is cool, because I got to be a commander at Kandahar years ago, and still makes my heart beat fast thinking about that place. But it's exciting. There's a lot going on. But you know what? I'm confident in our airmen. We've got a great team here. We're going to get the job done, and we get to be part of something that's historic. And sometimes we overuse, like, this is unprecedented. But I mean, this is historic, right? There's never been an Air National Guard base that's hosted multiple foreign partner training programs at the same time, and hosted an active duty group, and have your own mission that's completely separate from that. Like, this has never been done before. And if you look into like the literature on our national security and how we're doing security strategy, right? It says a lot about foreign partners. We got to fight with our allies and partners. It says a lot about intelligence. It says a lot about advanced technologies. And on this base, we are flying unmanned aircraft. We're doing top secret intelligence analysis. We are deploying people downrange. We are training total force, active duty, reservists, guard, civil engineers come here and train. And then we're going to be training Singapore, Germany, Poland. Like, that's intense. This little postage stamp called Ebbing is going to be hopping. And this is an exciting place, and I can't believe that I get to be part of it. And I hope all the airmen on our wing are excited, regardless of what your job is, that you're part of something that's going to be big and something historic.
All we need is a BX.
All we need is a BX, man. I love you, young folks. We'll see if we can hang that one out there in the future. It is in the design plan, not to build a BX, but there's a shopette.
Just take it.
Showing space right now. The AFES is a totally different beast. AFES is like a company on its own that works for the government. So AFES they look at it and they go, how many people are working on your base? And they have their own case study. And when it hits like a certain threshold, they'll go, okay, you warrant a shopette. So the plan creates space for a shopette. So if we hit that point in the future, we could at least get a shopette.
I'll take that.
That'd be cool, huh? That'd be cool. Can't guarantee it, but I'd love it to be there. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think it's really awesome. It's, like you said, it's really exciting to see all this stuff growing and the new things around the corner constantly.
Well, Carrisa, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today.
Thank y'all for having me.
Did you have fun?
I did.
Did you learn something?
I did.
I learned something.
Yes.
It's challenging, huh? You going to come back if we need you to come back?
Sure.
All right.
Just ask me.
All right. I love it.
And
Thanks
I'll
so much.
go.
Chauncey, thanks for putting this together. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Airman Crawford, and thank you for all listening. That's it for this month's 188th Wing podcast. We will have a new episode released each week of drill, so keep a lookout. In future episodes, we will continue talking about what's happening at the wing. You will have a chance to ask the commander questions, and we will meet some of our airmen to learn about their Air Guard experience. Join us next time.